I was born with a genetic condition, and which gives me lots and lots of issues, physical issues, and lots of chronic pain if I don't look after my body, my well-being. But I noticed the more I put my body first, everything else comes with it.
If it's at that point where it's manifesting in our body, we've ignored our spirit and our emotional well-being to a point that it's now actually physically showing. And a lot of people disregard the pain and try and numb it and that sort of thing, but it's there to give us a message. And it's almost we need to welcome and be curious about that.
Holistic well-being is when you listen to your physical health, mental health, emotional, spiritual, all together. And also when you realize that it's very difficult to be healthy and be balanced if you neglect certain areas in life.
If we neglect one, or we try to muscle out or arm wrestle one of instead of befriending them, that's where we end up kind of chasing our tail. But when we look at holistically and befriending the mind, like bringing the mind home so it can rest, it's our fierce lone wolf warrior, right?
If we go even deeper than that, we're discovering that our soul or our spirit or whatever has decided to put these things in our life as well sometimes to see how that we'll react to them and how we'll grow and learn.
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's discussion. You may have been watching our videos, but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have gained value from our conversations, from our channel, it would be so appreciated for us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now and even give us a like. What that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it also allows us to bring in even more guests for you to listen to. And you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get started on today's wonderful panel discussion. So welcome to our wonderful panel discussion today. I'm really excited. My name's Sophia Soul from Sacred You. And not only do I have the honor of co-creating Sacred You and hosting these wonderful panels, today I'm also excited because I'm facilitating Healing the Spirit, Holistic Approaches to Wellbeing, which is a topic that is close to my heart. And hopefully we'll get to talk about that a little bit more. But before we do that, let's introduce our wonderful panelists from all over the world. And I want to honor everyone who's coming here, especially because some of them are really late at night. So can we start with our beautiful Charlotte? You're on the top. Charlotte, tell us a little bit about yourself and what interests you in today's topic.
I'm Charlotte Mitchell. I'm a medical herbalist, a traditional Chinese practitioner, and also a healer or biofield consultant, I call myself. What am I interested in this topic? I think it's essential. I think we have great ability to look after our own health. Yes, we do need supervision sometimes. Yes, we do need advice from people and doctors and things like that. But I think there's so much we can do ourselves. So this is a very important subject.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much. And ditto to exactly what you just said. Looking forward to hearing more. What about Michelle, who's joining us all the way from the US? Again, welcome, Michelle. Tell us a little bit about you and why are you here?
Yeah, thank you for the invitation and this opportunity and this platform. Yeah, so I'm Michelle Holling-Brooks, and I've been in the field of healing and wellness for 20 years as a certified practitioner in traditional Chinese medicine, 5 elements as well, Eden energy medicine, and then also a few other healing modalities and mixing in eventually the true holistic thing. So I was really mind and body. I was like that science geek and very much oriented in that, and really held my spirituality piece of body, mind, soul back behind things. And eventually it just pushed through and it said, like, you will look at this. And then I got image of a ship coming in, and it was just all tattered, and it was like, this is your relationship with that third prong, and why am I not moving things in my own life and other things like that. So this topic is a huge one for me, and I'd like to say I got the PhD through that own inner healing journey as I was holding that space for others, of really what it is to have true holistic of body, mind, and spirit. And so just the topic of bringing in healing the spirit mixed with holistic really appealed to me. And I just wanted to be in this gorgeous container with these other amazing practitioners and sharing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get to hear a little bit about your story too and how you healed yourself, which is absolutely incredible. Thank you. And Becca, thank you so much again for joining us from Canada. And again,
Yeah.
please say hi and what interests you in healing the spirit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Becca Shaw. I'm originally from England, but I'm currently in Canada. I have always been into healing and magic and all of those wonderful things since birth, and probably past lives as well, and my whole soul. So this is very much my thing. This is my complete embodiment of who I am, is talking to people and helping them discover the power within them to heal and where it comes from as well. I think it's very important to get to the root cause of everything. And lots of people don't realize that there is a root cause or whatever. So yeah, it's very much about going inward and also exploring outward what actually makes us sick or what makes us not mentally or emotionally okay, and how we can actually transform ourselves with that. So my thing is always holistic, and it's always about empowering people to create their own reality and to heal themselves.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Looking forward to hearing more. And last but not least, the beautiful Catherine, and just a very special hello and very special thank you to Catherine, who's joining us for our panel at the very last moment. So thank you, Catherine. And again, would you like to say hello? And what is your interest in holistic approaches to wellbeing?
Thanks, Sophia. I'm glad I could help out. My approach to wellbeing and health is basically, this is what I coach my clients. So I'm a leadership coach and intuitive healer. I also have the blessing of interviewing people on my podcast, Willow Healing Matters, all around the world, and learning about holistic and alternative healing practices from them. And it's amazing that it always comes back down to, we have the ability to self-heal. We've just forgotten how to do it. And we so focus in our culture on money gains and material things, and we forget that if our health isn't okay and our physical well-being, that we can't actually hold the container for everything else. And our body contains so much wisdom. And if we're not there actually listening to our body, then we're not actually listening to ourselves. And that's why I empower my clients to reclaim their voice so that they can actually have that ability to express what's going on in their life, whether it's business, family, or health. So, yeah.
Thank you. And again, ditto, it really comes down to our body. And I've experienced that so much for myself. If I can just share to start this discussion on, I was born with a genetic condition, and which gives me lots and lots of issues, physical issues, and lots of chronic pain, if I don't look after my body, my well-being. But I noticed the more I put my body first, everything else comes with it. So definitely want to get into that. And Catherine, since we just talked to you, can I ask you, for you, how do you define holistic well-being? And you just mentioned, but is there anything else you'd like to say? Why is it important for spiritual and emotional health?
If it's at that point where it's manifesting in our body, we've ignored our spirit and our emotional well-being to a point that it's now actually physically showing. And a lot of people disregard the pain and try and numb it and that sort of thing, but it's there to give us a message. And it's almost, we need to welcome and be curious about that, because by the time it manifests in our body to that degree, we've been ignoring ourselves so much that it's now the last kind of expression before it gets to that chaos and tragedy. It's the biggest first example I think of. We have that inner voice, that intuitive whisper. And we can choose to act on that from a spiritual perspective, or we can choose to ignore it. If we choose to ignore it, then the emotions start to come out. And then we get these emotional reactions to things because it's not in alignment. And there's no good or bad emotions. It's about finding that balance between the two. And then if we continue to ignore the emotions, then it starts to manifest in our body. And our body starts to talk to us, because if we continue to ignore those things, then our body is just going to continually shut down. And I know I've personally experienced this when, instead of listening to my intuition and I've talked about this with you before, but to quit my job, I decided to keep staying and hanging on, to the point I started to go numb, because I was numbing myself to be there. I lost feeling in my left pinky. I lost feeling in my left side of my face. And everyone was just saying, oh, you got to go to the doctor. And I'm like, nope. I know what's going on here. I know that I'm numbing myself to go to this job. And as soon as I listened to that inner voice and quit, the first day I was home, all the symptoms disappeared. So this is the extreme that your body can go to if you actually choose to listen to it. And it's constantly, we ask for signs from the universe, and sometimes it shows up in our body as well. So in summary, if you're not listening to your spirit and your emotional well-being, then your physical well-being is not okay. And we really need to account for all aspects of that in order to have balance in our life.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree that a lot of the times it does show up in our body physically when we're not listening to all the other things in our lives. So thank you. And Charlotte, what about for you in your business? Because you do a lot of health. How do you define holistic well-being? And for you, why is it important?
I think holistic well-being is when you listen to your physical health, look at your physical health, mental health, emotional, spiritual, all together. And also when you realize that it's very difficult to be healthy and be balanced if you neglect certain areas in life. So yes, there's work, and you might love work, but if you're a workaholic at the expense of other areas of your life, then that's going to be a problem. Relationships, but also social, of course, going out to see friends, just getting that balance, but also community. And it's almost like you have these buckets that need filling, and they all need filling. And sometimes there might be times where, yes, your emphasis is more on work, but it's important to remember to come back to balance at some point and fill up the other buckets as well.
Yeah, totally. It's all about having that totally balanced lifestyle as much as we can in this crazy world, but to really prioritize that we are fulfilling all areas of our lives. So thank you. And Michelle, I'd love to go to you, very special. And if you have anything to add on how you define your holistic well-being, please do. But also, if you'd like to share anything about your personal story and how the holistic practices helped you in your journey.
Oh, that's a big thing. I'll try to keep it condensed to honor everyone and their wisdom as well. But yeah, so for me, the holistic approach has really come from just a little bit of my niche is in trauma-informed approaches, and actually started off in the mental health side. So again, very much on that kind of emotional, mental health and well-being, mind over matter, mindset management, and all of that kind of stuff. And quickly saw that it only got you so far. And I also had a real interest in body health and well-being, because that was Sophia was hinting to, is that 13, I had an illness that took out my whole body pretty much. I ended up in a coma for 7 days because my brain was struggling with viral encephalitis and spinal meningitis. My nervous system was shot. And from about the middle of my back down, when I woke up from that coma, I was deaf, I was blind, I was paralyzed from the middle of my back down, and I was totally wiped clean. I had no memory of Michelle, of this life, of human. So the body was something very foreign to me. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. And because I was more in the state of energy and spirit when I first woke up, that was my kind of home base, and everything in this world was very difficult for me. Fast forward, then it became a like a thing that I really wanted to understand. I didn't understand this body. I didn't understand how to make it work. I didn't understand why humans did what they did, why there was so much pain and suffering. And I could feel the emotions of other people, their emotional bodies, like wanting things from me. And it was painful. And I could feel the pain of somebody's like a mental being, like whipping them back into shape through this protective mechanisms. And that was my world. And so it was a bit of a survival thing to work on this at first. And I really did find that niche with working with the nervous system and the body and the meridians and like these sciencey like things that I could say, oh, if I hold this point, it does this. I'm trying to make these equations. And eventually the equations only got me so far. And I really ended up at this place where I was in a teeter-totter within my own body as I was like working and with clients, where I would lose balance between chronic Lyme and relapsing into encephalitis and other things like that. And it ended up just where it didn't matter what mindset I came in or different things like that. And that's when I mentioned that I had that vision in a meditation one day when I was just really asking for guidance. It came this tattered ship that was like, and I heard the voice that said, this is your relationship with your soul. Are you willing to look at that? And I was like, no, shove that little sucker back out. I was like, I don't want anything to do with that, because at that point, I was I had become very shamanic based. I love the idea of quote spirit, but the idea of soul mixed to something greater than just like my own personal being and the energies that I could feel on an earth-based level. I didn't want to have anything to do with it because I really just resented it. I didn't realize how much anger. And so the title of this, the healing the spirit, I was like, ooh, I just had no idea the level of real unhealed trauma and anger and rage that I had from those experiences and the pain of relearning. Sophia, this of going through all of those medical things to be able to get there. And prior to that, like my body had gone through tons of medical stuff, like 13 surgeries by the time I was like 8 and all this. And so it's just the body was not a fun place to be. I had taken all these spiritual practices and done like not what they're about, but I didn't know that. And so I was like, okay, I can mind over matter with the body. I can control what I feel in the body and what I don't feel. So Catherine, you're talking about numbing. I was like, oh yeah, been there, done that. And all these other things. And so this idea of working with soul, something bigger than spirit, bigger than just this essence of me, was just so terrifying to me. And I actually didn't want to do it. And as the body is a messenger, thought creates form, that division within me led to what actually ended up coming up as neuroendocrine sarcoma. And over 80% of my body was covered in stage 4 cancer on my nervous system. And those of you who know what the endocrine system is, that's a mist that's around all of your organs of your body. That's your fight, flight, or freeze. So I was literally like toxic in my whole body from these different ways. But if you looked at me, you would say I was the most healthy person you'd ever seen, like ran, ate clean, all this other stuff. And so it didn't make sense to the medical people. But once I was sitting in a meditation and I wasn't getting better from this chronic pneumonia that was happening, and I heard you had cancer, I said, no, that's not true. And I'm like, I'm not a smoker. I was like, and I looked into my own body, did an intuitive scan on it, and I was like, oh, snap. So I called my doctor, who is luckily, she knows what I do. She and I work with referrals. And I was like, you need to get me in some machines. And she was like, Michelle, that's not possible. And I'm like, I'm telling you. So after a few things and traveling around, finally was able to do that. But the type of cancer wasn't able to respond to traditional medicine. So I got to pull out my healer's toolkit and dive in. And I already knew where I was going because I had blown that little ship out to sea and said, nope, I don't want to work with you. And it was time to say, actually, come back. Come back. And yeah, that's the holistic is it's all three. And like Charlotte was saying, if we neglect one or we try to muscle out or arm wrestle one of them instead of befriending them, that's where we end up kind of chasing our tail. But when we look at holistically and befriending the mind, like bringing the mind home so it can rest, it's our fierce lone wolf warrior, right? When we bring it in, the body is trying to be our sacred vessel. Can we see it that way and meet it as a messenger? And then can we meet the emotions in the heart that way too? And so that opens us up to one last little piece, which is that soul spirit. And can we befriend that too and bring it in, not as a abdicating, kicking ourselves out of our system. I've experienced that with no sense of self. That was not good. That left me up for what I call the abuse years. It's no, can we find our voice, like Catherine was saying, and like what Becca was saying, of that root cause, and bring it all together. So that's my definition, and why I love this topic so much.
And thank you so much for sharing that. And I don't know about everyone else, but I'm personally glad that you found your soul and you befriended your soul. More to point that you befriended your soul. So thank you, Michelle, for sharing that. And for anyone who is watching either the live or replay, click on the links below and read more of Michelle's story if you wish. And while you're there, look at everyone else's links too, because these are some amazing women from all over the world. So thank you. And Becca, what about you? If you'd like to add anything about your definition to holistic well-being and why is it so important in our lives? And do you have any stories of transformation that you would like to share that you've done through holistic practices?
Yeah, how do I follow up all of that?
It's fine.
Yeah, I was going to go along the emotional route, and Catherine just did exactly word for word almost what I was going to say. So I'm going to go the spiritual side. And from my work as a Akashic Records practitioner, I find that a lot of people discover that yes, the body is trying to communicate, and whether that's emotions or physical ailments and stuff like that. But then if we go even deeper than that, we're discovering that our soul or our spirit or whatever has decided to put these things in our life as well, sometimes to see how that we'll react to them and how we'll grow and learn. If we get something, for example, like a cancer or something like that, how are we going to react in human form, like a soul in a human body? How are we going to go the holistic route? Are we going to just put all our faith into doctors? Are we going to just give up, or are we going to grow stronger with that? And so that's always a really fascinating thing, because then we can go into either talking to the soul, or we can go to past lives and see if it's things carried on from that. And it gets really deep, really interesting. Yeah, so I'm just going to jump on that kind of side of it right now. And that's something that I really enjoy doing with people, is finding out, yes, you've got this chronic condition or illness throughout your life, maybe, or maybe it just came later in life or whenever, but that can sometimes stem from a purely spiritual thing, like nothing necessary to do with your emotions or your traumas or things in this life. It can be something from many lives ago, or just something that your soul wished to experience. So that's really cool. For myself with holistic, I always find that nature is my medicine, and I will, if I'm feeling anything, either physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, nothing cannot be helped for me if I just go into the forest, or I go and put my bare feet on the ground, or I go into the sunshine, or I climb a tree, like any of that kind of stuff. Just nature is always my medicine personally, and that extends then to herbal medicine, aromatherapy, all of that kind of stuff. Like anything from nature is very much what I will turn to myself. So that is very much holistic for me, that using the energy and stuff of nature to making myself balanced, myself in harmony, and myself in equilibrium. So very much for me in a more recent time, and I've spoken on a couple of your panels before about my journey in self-love and self-worthiness and stuff. And that was very much a holistic thing. That wasn't just I don't believe it, or something traumatic happened or whatever. It was just a combination of mind, body, soul, everything. It was all incorporated in the self-love and the self-worth. So that was very much a holistic experience of healing for myself, which is still going on now, but very much in full throttle of that. And it's hard work, but it's making sure that every single part of my essence is in alignment and is trusting as well. That's the other thing, is very much a trust that you need to have in your body, in your soul, in your everyday life, as well as in your spiritual realms as well. Yeah, just something a little bit different, since everybody took what I was going to say.
And it's fine, and it doesn't matter to Becca if you say similar things, so it's fine. But I'm really glad that you went down that spiritual path, because it puts a whole different aspect to it. We talk about illnesses here, we get sick, we get cancer, for example, just Michelle's things. Not many people think about what's the actual root cause of that. And did we agree to that before we came into this life? Is it a lesson that we have to learn from a previous life? So thank you for sharing that. And ditto about nature. Nature is our greatest healer. From just being in nature to all the plants and herbs and everything else that nature provides us, there's such a universal healer that have been around forever. Thank you for sharing that. And Catherine, I'd love to go down a little bit different for you because, you're a mum, you're a business owner, you're also the host of our Empowered Entrepreneurs Tribe. You help so many other people in their businesses and everything else that goes on in our lives. And I'm reasonably sure that you also, like everyone else, experience stress a little bit. So I'd love to know from you is what impact does stress have on spiritual health? And what do you do? What holistic practices do you use that alleviates it?
Just a little bit of stress in my life. I love it. I love it because you know my story too, which is even funny. I found too that I say I'm a recovering workaholic because there's still a lot of things. Up until about 2.5 years ago, I owned a very successful allied health practice in speech language pathology. And before that, I owned that one. I actually was in a partnership and they were very successful, but it was incredibly stressful. And I built this environment where I didn't get to be me and everything had to come back to me. And I really encourage people not to build a business that way because it means that you never get time off. So the only time I think I'd have off was like a week or two at Christmas because the office shut down and I was working ridiculous amounts of hours. And I was in constant stress and burnout. And I go, like you mentioned, Becca, I go on like a natural route. So I was surviving through going to see my naturopath every week, essentially, and getting a massive box of supplements and popping these little natural things called NeuroCalm. And I didn't realize how much I was dependent on those till I actually had a week off. And I fell asleep on the couch because I had taken them and they would just put me in such a relaxed state. But normally they just kept me from going over the edge. When I stepped back from that, my intuitive gifts, because through that, before I sold my company, I went through a spiritual reawakening. That's what I like to call it. And part of that was like, I had these intuitive gifts, but when I actually sold my business, they started to turn up more because when you step out of that stress and that constant cortisol injection, you actually have space and the energy to allow more things to come in. So even now, I find myself when I first went into, especially at the start of this year, I was all driven. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do 100 different things. And I overcommitted myself and I found myself going back to those old habits because we create these environments where we think we have to be this busy person and create all this stress. And it was really hard for me to tune in. And as soon as I started to realize that was my habit and pull back again from that and pull back, my intuition just kept turning up and up to the point where I actually left my job. It turned up so much that like when I started doing sessions with people, I didn't even have to tune in. It was just like instant downloads. And this really helps like when you're thinking about if you're being frustrated trying to connect with your inner voice or your intuition, the more stressed you get about it, the harder it is to go and do it. The biggest thing that I learned from that and habits that I created to help me with that was definitely spending time in nature. And I know it sounds really woo, but hugging a tree can be so powerful, or just sitting for 5 minutes. And especially as a mom, sitting and actually allowing yourself to drink that cup of tea while it's still hot, so important, rather than coming back later and forgetting about that. And putting yourself first doesn't have to be like an act of selfishness. And I feel that's this mold that we're breaking in society as well. When mothers are constantly putting our health last, especially from a holistic point of view and a spiritual point of view. And we let our stress build up because we constantly want to show up for the family. But then when you break down who's there looking after the family, once you fall apart. And that's something I've always instilled in my clients, especially their parents, because especially with kids with high needs, it can be really hard to balance that stress. So definitely connecting in nature, creating practice and time for yourself every day, and on working something that you love and brings you passion. Like Charlotte mentioned earlier, you can end up in that stress workaholic because you love your job, but you still also have to have that space to come back from that, to allow yourself to just be. And it's weirdly in those moments of nothingness that you can be the most inspired, and you can tap into your intuition, you can tap into your journey, and you can actually be more rounded as a person. And for me, that's part of holistic well-being too.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, and ditto to everything you said, especially the part about hugging trees. It is so important, and we can actually absorb the energy of those trees into our body, absorb the natural vibration of the earth and the trees. So thank you for sharing that. Good stuff. And Charlotte, I'd love to ask you, because you also come from a little bit of a different background. You're a Chinese herbalist. You practice their medicine. But for you, have you experienced, in your experience, how does ancient wisdom, especially Chinese ancient wisdom, and modern science intersect?
Increasingly, I think in the past, not so much, but now I think science is catching up. I think being a traditional Chinese practitioner, it was very interesting because I did some of my clinical training in China, in Nanjing, and I like their system because as a doctor, you have a choice of specializing in Western medicine or in herbal medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, or in acupuncture. And what I like about this system as well is that as a patient, you can make a decision which doctor you want to see. And there was a phase probably in the 80s and early 90s where people were flocking, Chinese clients were flocking, or patients were flocking to have Western medicine. And then they realized that Western medicine can only treat certain conditions. So when I was there, I went with a friend, a colleague, and we studied under two Chinese doctors, and they were both herbal doctors. And one of them specialized in cancer. And we found that she had found that a lot of patients had been gravitating back towards using herbal medicine for cancer at that particular point. And also the fact that if you go to the hospital and you're due to have surgery, you actually have a choice of choosing the acupuncturist as opposed to the anaesthetist. So you have that choice. And I just think that's just a lovely thing. So yes, we're getting to the point where China already has integrated both together. But I think, especially in the arena of healing and things and spirituality, science is definitely showing us what we knew already spiritually. And so they have so many ways to test. They can check the biofield in people, they can check photon emissions, biophoton emissions from our bodies, the light we emit from our bodies. So yes, it's an exciting field.
It isn't. It really is, because again, as you mentioned, like in today's world, it's so easy these days to go down the road and get a pill. You go to the doctors and you get a pill for this, but then you need a pill to overcome the effect of that pill, and it keeps on going. And what we don't realize, a lot of it is also making our bodies very toxic. Where if we go back to the ancient wisdom, whether it's Chinese or Indian, or as we're talking about just nature, then there is so many ways that we can heal in a holistic way.
It's interesting because pain is one thing that I think a lot of people would think is not really easily treated with alternative or complementary medicines. But I remember I was in Japan. I used to work in Japan a lot. So I was in Kyoto working in a clinic, and there was a lady who was actually hosting the event, and she said that she wanted a healing session. So we started. I had a translator, so I knew that she had a problem with her right knee, which had been going on for years, many years. And she found it, and the Japanese obviously squat a lot, they sit on their haunches, they're very flexible. So for her, it was really difficult because she couldn't really sit and eat at a table, at a Japanese table. It was really hard. So anyway, I gave her the treatment, the healing session, and which lasted probably about 40 minutes. And then when I'd finished, she got up from the table, the bench, and she just said, "Oh, hang on a second, I don't have any pain anymore. But I've had pain for the last 10 years. This is weird." And then she started in this indomitable manner, going up and down. I was thinking maybe just slowly start exercising, really seriously, just don't do it all at once. But she did. She was up and down and squatting and up. And from then on, never had a single moment of pain in that knee. So I think sometimes we underestimate the power of complementary medicine in areas that, yes, you probably wouldn't foresee.
Yes, yeah, and I thoroughly agree with you. Totally agree with you, and especially with my personal experience. I grew up a lot of my life in a country town in chronic pain, and all they knew with the situation is to have more surgery and give me more drugs. And I ended up self-injecting pethidine to overcome the pain because that's all there was or knew, not knowing that it was causing more pain. Until you get to a stage where I finally started listening to my body that said no more, didn't say it, it yelled at it. And now it's like there are so many holistic ways. I haven't taken a pharmaceutical drug in years because there's things which I want to get to talk about, other modalities such as Reiki and acupuncture. And for me, sound is my medicine. And breath work, because a lot of our pain, and I want to open this up for anyone who's experienced this, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of our pain is emotional blockages. And when we're able to breathe those, to release those emotions, then the pain goes away. And it's certainly helped Reiki and acupuncture. So thank you for sharing that, Charlotte. Thank you so much. And talking of Reiki and stuff, and if anyone else wants to comment, please do, please say. But I know, Becca, as well as your Akashic records and everything else, you also do Reiki. So in your experience, how does Reiki support emotional and spiritual well-being?
Yeah, Reiki is fantastic. Reiki is an energy healing with the hands, I guess, but it's not my energy. It's taking the energy from the universe, from God, from whatever, the ether, whatever people want to believe, but that's channeled through the Reiki practitioner and through their hands. So the Reiki practitioner shouldn't be giving you any of their energy. But then it's this beautiful, gentle energy. It can't do any harm. So if you're the person doing it can't direct it and manipulate it and stuff, it literally just flows to where it needs to go and helps with whatever it needs to help with. Because it's so gentle as well, it can really help people relax into it. And as Michelle was saying, a lot of the stuff is the nervous system and stuff. So Reiki can just really make the nervous system relax, and from that then you can release things. You can cry, like the amount of times that I've had clients cry, and that's a release. Or it's very beautiful to watch such a gentle thing, and it can be through touch, or it can just literally be hovering above. There's even distant Reiki as well, which sounds very woo-woo and out there, but I've experimented with it, and I've literally sent Reiki to people in other countries or wherever they are, and they've said, "Oh, my headache's gone," or whatever it was that was the problem, or they had pain in their knee or something, and I've sent them Reiki. But I've not told them I've sent them Reiki. I've just then asked, and to see if it's worked or not. And around the time that I was sending it would be the time that they said, "Yeah, around 2 o'clock today, it just disappeared." And then you work out the times, like difference and everything, and it's absolutely around that time. So anyway, so for me, Reiki is, I would say that I think everybody should get attuned to Reiki, because it's like the spiritual first aid. How everyone should know a little bit of first aid, just if they ever need it. Well, Reiki is you're going to need it every single day, perhaps just the self Reiki, just to help you with your emotions, with your physical, with your mental. It can help you sleep. It's just so perfect. And like I said, it's not your own energy. So even if you're tired and depleted, you can literally just put your hands wherever you need to and just allow that universal energy to flow for you and go to where you need it to go. It's just the most incredible healing modality. And yeah, everybody should definitely either learn it or have someone on standby for their Reiki healing, because again, it can't ever hurt you. It can't ever do any damage. It will just literally go to wherever it's needed. And obviously you have to be receptive to it. If you're I don't want it, then it's not going to go to you. If you're like welcoming it in and saying, yes, please, I need this pain to go, or I need this anger or this upset to go, then absolutely it will flow into you. And it's just this beautiful light that comes in and makes you feel so much better. And yeah, I can't say enough wonderful things about Reiki.
I know, and thank you for sharing that. And I really want to honor you for sharing your Reiki throughout the world. And just again, from my experience, I've had Reiki from someone 3,000 kilometers away.
Yeah.
And it has been amazing. You can feel it. You can feel its energy because it's just energy. And is there anyone else, Charlotte? I know you're an energy healer, whether we call it Reiki or just energy healing. Would you like to share anything with your experience on how you use your energy to support emotional well-being?
Yes, I think as has been mentioned, energy precedes matter. It's so important that we work with energy. It will save us a lot of problems because, as Catherine said, you can pick up problems in the energy field before you often exhibit symptoms and things like that. I think that some of the traditional practices like Qigong, Tai Chi, and things are really fabulous to use. I know that some of the scientists have experimented and checking actually the biofield of people. For example, before they practice maybe Qigong, Tai Chi, and then afterwards. And they can see quite a difference. What they found is that if you regularly practice a martial art, for example, say you've been doing it for 2 years, 5 years, something like that, they find that if they test your biofield before doing an hour's practice, the biofield is almost the same as when you've finished the practice. So basically, you've been able to self-regulate. You've been able to stabilize that biofield in general in your life. They found that when you're new to a practice, as let's say yoga this time, and you test the biofield before doing an hour's yoga practice, that the biofield may be slightly jagged, it might be not in balance, and yet after an hour, there's much more balance in that biofield. So we know that using these type of practices can make a difference pretty quickly. They also found that they did a test of a gentleman, I think he was around 77 years old, and he had Parkinson's disease. And again, they saw this very uneven pattern around the head area within the biofield. And then he did an hour of Tai Chi, and afterwards, this energy around the head had actually balanced quite well. Now, that was just as a one-off. They also find that, unfortunately, our mobile phones, for example, if we're holding these close to us, they actually really, so if you're holding it in the right hand, you'll find there's a difference, there's a discrepancy between right side of your biofield and the left. So I use healing all the time. I use it to diagnose. So I will use it for individuals and also businesses. So I will go into businesses and I will check the energy or the energy signature of that business and look at what's working for it, what's not working for it, so that we can increase productivity. And in terms of individuals, working not only on physical health, emotional health, mental health, but also on their life path issues, things that are just generally not working for them in their life. Maybe they want some change. What is it that might be holding them back? So yes, energy is a huge part of my life and it's a huge part of my work.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And again, for everyone who's watching, click on the links below to reach out to Charlotte, because thoroughly recommend what Charlotte does. Thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly. Thank you. And Michelle, love to know from you. Again, do you have anything that you'd like to share about your using energy healing? But in particular, because you also work with mental health, in the area of mental health. So for you, how does holistic approaches enhance traditional therapeutic practices for mental health?
Yeah, I think that especially with the onset of, from the 80s, Richard Schwartz with internal family systems, or what's called parts work in a lot. And he did a groundbreaking study on rheumatoid arthritis. We're working with the parts, and I'll talk about that here in a second about what that is, and doing a controlled study. And so it's now a best practices really came out and allowed us to say, hey, when we work with these unresolved traumas in our systems and our protective parts and exile parts, and we start to recollate to what he calls the self, i.e. spirit, soul, and starting to bring it back together, it actually has a true transformational thing. So that in itself, that integration of taking these different fractured off parts of us and shamanic healing, this is called soul retrieval and fractures and different things like that. He stumbled on from a medical standpoint, from a traditional mental health kind of standpoint of working with family systems, which is when there's somebody in the family unit itself that is slightly, quote, problematic or struggling, that the whole family around it starts to take on different roles and different ways that they actually protect really unhealthy codependency and protecting the trauma cycle and keeping it going because they're just so used to being in that. And he started to realize from working with his clients back in the 80s that, hey, when the clients were talking, they would say, a part of me does this. And he was noticing it was the same thing, as above, so below. What's in one is in the whole. And so what was happening externally was also happening in the inner world of these people. And so the IFS model has really started to show what that rheumatoid arthritis showed. To circle back to that just super quick, because I know we're coming close on time. But the group that was getting treatment through IFS, working with these parts, working with retrievals, they call it unburdening. But if you really look at the roots of what he stumbled on, but through a Western medical model, so they like it, it's everything that we've been talking about, everything that's in the wisdom traditions and healers and shamanic passageways and transition work and transformational work and reclaiming of self and your voice. It's all in there, but it came through a Western male medical MD. So therefore it got a little bit farther, but he is a beautiful healer in his own right. And what that study found is that the people that were working through parts work, almost all of them had a reduction of pain, and most of them went even to the point where they were no longer symptomatic. And it just didn't make any sense to the medical community. They could not figure out why the ones that were on the meds were not improving at any hardly that rate. The ones that were in traditional mental health, more cognitive behavioral health way, were not improving, and they just couldn't put their finger on it. And so that really started the work. And so IFS has done a lot of beautiful work for all of us energy work healers, because they're paving the way through the medical side to say, hey, there is a connection between body, mind, and spirit, whether we can see it or not. And they call spirit self because that's what makes a little bit more palatable for people, just like for me. Don't come to me with that S word. I didn't even know if I liked the word self since I was so separated from that quote, Michelle. But eventually, really, it is that reclaiming, that unburdening the trauma from our system. Because why aren't we balancing naturally on our own? If that's our natural state and our body wants to find balance, and yes, we could say that perfection is not the goal, but like as much ease and grace as possible. Why would we not then make the choice that says, let me hold that healthy boundary with my employer? Let me do this other thing over here. What blocks us from making that choice? That is the trapped trauma in the system. That is the protective programs. Those are the exiled parts of us that separate us like an ocean from being able to respond the way our body is cueing us to respond. Our heart is knocking on us saying, hey, let's come in here. But it's the mental being survival protection mechanisms that come in and hijack us and drive us into that imbalance. And so if we can start to befriend that and understand that it comes from somewhere, the body has a reason for why it's doing what it's doing. It comes from those thoughts, and those thoughts come from survival, because it does us no good to survive a situation physically. If we get exiled from the tribe, we're going to die anyways. So our system has a hierarchy. It's a real hierarchy, and we need to honor it, not make ourselves feel bad that we can't pick that choice, but instead really start to compassionately understand where that choice and that hierarchy in our system came from, so that we can start to say, how can we create a new choice? How can we create a new environment inside ourselves, which might require us to start changing our environment outside, but how do we do them both together? And I think that's that holistic approach. It's not just saying, let's take a pill to make a lock and the key, numb ourselves, make us more efficient, we're still hiding from those different aspects. And to me, all these autoimmunes, cancers, everything else, that's inner division, hiding, loathing, shame, and blame, all turned where? Turned inward, right? And it's that work that really can allow us, and it really comes when we start to work with our spirit. We can work with our body through all the breath techniques that we want to do, through all the different things. We can do all of the things amazingly. And yeah, we can take all the right supplements, the right diet. If we're not working with ourselves from that spirit side, if we're not embodying that and saying that, why can't I say no to that simple request? Why am I hemorrhaging all my energy over here? Or why did my body just go into a complete fight or freeze response when I'm just walking down the street? There's nothing here to equal that, but off to the races it goes. If we don't work with that, we're not going to find that true health and wellness and that sense of well-being anywhere, physically, emotionally, or mentally.
Yeah. And it's so very true. Very true. We've got to really go back and look at the trauma, the experiences, the thoughts that are held in our body, in our cells, in our muscles, and everything that really becomes the controller of our lives. I really believe that our cellular memory controls our lives. So thank you for sharing that. Good. And Catherine, before we wrap up, I'd love to go to you. If you have anything to add, please do. And I'd also like to know from you, what advice would you give to someone who's just beginning their journey into holistic wellness?
That's a loaded question. No. From in terms of using alternative practices and that, the biggest thing I find with a lot of my clients who come to me with pain or mental health issues, it's nearly all the time we can find a place in childhood that triggered it. So there's a lot of inner child work, actually going in and finding that version of you that, created the feeling that you have, the anxiety that Michelle said, like walking down the street and you just get triggered for no reason because there's some event in our subconscious that leads us to that point. And this is the beauty of holistic healing, is that you don't just have to commit to one way. You can have a little bit of everything to find what works for you. And that's how I work as a practitioner, is I'll go follow what makes me curious. Like, I did medical intuition for 5 minutes and I realized that doesn't align with me, even though I was probably good at it, but I didn't love it. And then I did theta healing, and I've done emotion code and neuroemotional technique and lifeline healing. Anyway, I've done all these different forms of healing, but the biggest thing that it teaches me, as well as my clients, is how to come back inside of you to find where that acceptance, compassion, and love needs to come from. And I don't mean love like romantic love. I mean love as in truly unconditional love, loving all parts of yourself, the dark, the happy, whatever it might be. Because when you can fully accept yourself for where you are and accept that you're whole, you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed, you're actually whole in your body, showing yourself that way, then you can move forward. And so the second part of your question, for someone who's starting this, sometimes it can just be that curiosity that's enough, and to honor that curiosity and follow that curiosity. So it's, I wonder what acupuncture is. I might book in a session, and because this person just keeps showing up in my radar, or, I think I need a naturopath. Maybe I'll go down that route. Or, maybe I need some Reiki. What is that? And following that curiosity, because often that's our soul leading us down to somewhere. And the amount of people I've interviewed who end up practicing what they were curious about in the first place, or what they were pulled to in the first place and end up making that their passion and their livelihood is so amazing. I think it's like probably 80% of the guests that I've interviewed, and they're always the same. They're like, I was like, oh, what pulled you to Reiki? They're like, I had a Reiki session and it changed my life. Or why are you working acupuncture? I was really curious and it actually really worked for me, and I found it was what was missing in my life. That curiosity is what allows us to stay in that childlike energy, but also is our soul urging us to go experience something new and evolve to that next level as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And love it. Just follow your curiosity. Definitely follow your guidance. And thank you. And while we have you, Catherine, is there anything you'd like to share, any offers or anything? We will be putting all your links down below, but tell us about what you're offering.
Sure. So at the moment, I'm offering a free 30-minute one-on-one call, and it's just to help you tap back into yourself and move with whatever is holding up you in your life, whether it's business, whether it's personally. Normally they intersect anyway, so I don't mind. But what it is really high quality coaching, and I will guide you to yourself and get the answers that you need, and then there will be follow-up as well, so to make sure that you are doing what you need to do, get those action steps happening in your life. And I have to say, the clients I've been working with have had some really amazing changes. Like it's beyond words. Like they're moving to new countries, they're left this place they were volunteering for because it was sucking their energy, only to have their dream job land in their lap the next week. Or they'll just be in the session and go, I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm like, yeah, I don't know either, but you figured it out. So that's really what it's about, is coming back to yourself. And then next week I'm running a free masterclass online as well about owning your courageous no and reclaiming more time, energy and presence in your life, especially as a busy mum. This is for you, and how to get some more energy and time and presence so you can actually be the mum that you want to be and show up how you want to show up.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And again, we will be putting all your links below. So thank you. And for anyone out there, especially mums, do join up for Catherine's masterclass. Thank you. And Charlotte, what about you? Do you have any other advice that you'd like to give to someone who's just beginning their journey, who might be curious? And then, yes, if you have any offers as well.
Well, I would just say have fun exploring. Just see what you like and go for it. And in terms of offers, if anyone listening would like to contact me, just mention that they've been here or they're listening to this in the future, and then I'm happy to send them some gifts, including a visualization and also an energy tracking tool as well. And also for those in Sydney, although probably not many people are, I'm giving a talk on November the 1st on the psychology of the gut. If anyone's interested, please get in contact with me, and I will be doing them online at some point as well.
Absolutely. And if you're also seeing this after November the 1st, as Charlotte said, you will be doing them online. So click on those links below, because Charlotte is a fantastic Chinese herbalist and definitely knows all about the health of the gut, which is a foundation to our physical health too. If our gut's healthy, everything, all our other systems are healthy. But if our gut's out of whack, then everything can all become a little bit diseased. Thank you, Charlotte, for that. And Michelle, for you, do you have any final advice that you could give to someone who's just starting out on their journey?
Yeah, I would say go through whichever doorway is talking to you, whether that's through the body and starting to work with your body through breath work or somatic practicing or working with an herbalist or whatever that is. Go through that door and see if the mind is something, and befriending the mind and working with that and using breath work for that, or the spirit and shamanic practices and soul contracts and stuff like that. I'm a Carolyn Mace person too, so I do soul contract work and astrology. But so whichever doorway is calling for you, and then have fun, just walk through it and know that path is eventually going to ask you to weave all those three things together. But don't feel like you have to do it right away. Almost, I think the story that most of us said is we started on one place, and then slowly one place led to another, then led to another, and then voila, there we all are. And so that's my guidance for that one.
Thank you so much. And what about, do you have any offers? I know you've just brought out a new book and a card deck, but do you have any offers that you would like to share?
Yeah, depending on when you're listening to this, I'm either in the pre-order stage of my second publishing project, the Sacred Witness Oracle Suite, which is 3 sacred tools, which is a 56 hand-painted card oracle deck, an in-depth guidebook that's somatic practices and practices based, so what we've been talking about. It's a very the whole system is holistic. It works with the body, the mind, the heart, and the soul beings, as I call them, instead of bodies or centers, because I want you to realize that they're there for you. They want to partner with you and work with you. And then the book Trauma Informed Enlightenment, which is my second book that's coming out, which is all on that. So you can check out my website and go there for more information. But also on that website is tons of free resources. I've been doing this for 20 years. There are a lot of beautiful free meditations. Healing Your Inner Critic is one that I like to suggest people as a starting place. And then I have my podcast, Soulful Practices Podcast. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Yeah, and just dive in. Again, I try to make it as accessible as possible. My website is unbridledchange.org. It's a nonprofit organization, and I work with clients from all over the world. So it's not just US based. And yeah, energy, Becca, definitely travels anywhere and everywhere. Space and time is just an illusion. So yeah, feel free to reach that out, and you can definitely dive in for free and then join me in a workshop or a free Let's Talk that I try to do once a month for people on different topics.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm just checking out your website, and definitely ditto to everything you just said. So many offerings. So for people who are watching, click on those links below and reach out to Michelle, as well as these other wonderful women here. And Becca, what about your beautiful self? Do you have any final advice that you'd like to give to someone who's just beginning in their journey? And let us know what you're offering.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I will always tell people find your joy, find what lights you up. And Catherine was saying, you might get these whispers or things always showing up on your social media feed, or someone's always talking about something and it's the same thing. And it's like your spirit or your soul or your guidance team or whatever, trying to push you in a certain direction to explore this new modality or whatever. And that could be that you need to go to someone like these lovely ladies here and go and book a session with them. Or it might mean that you need to look into it for yourself, because maybe, again, like Catherine said, it's your calling, it's what you're going to be doing as a career. But it doesn't even need to be anything like a modality. It could be, like we said before, going out into nature. It could be dancing. It could be playing music. Sophia, you were saying like sound is your medicine, like music, sound in some kind of way might be your healing. What lights you up? What makes you happy? What can transport you, make you everything feel all right again? And like for some people, like one of my friends, her thing is going to the gym every day, which is my nightmare. But for her, like it's really changed her body and it's changed her mentality, it's changed her emotions, it's changed her spiritually. She is glowing. Literally, you can tell it's a completely different person now because she's done this dedication and she really enjoys this going to the gym thing. And it's changed every single aspect of her life. And she's completely changed the way that she is, the way that she eats, the way that she interacts with other people. It's actually helped her with boundaries and stuff like that just by going to the gym. It's incredible, right? So you really just need to just go within and just see what it is that you want for yourself. For my offerings, so depending when people are watching this, and if you're in Toronto, I'm actually going to be traveling to Toronto on the 4th of October, and I'm going to be co-hosting a beautiful crystal mastery, because I'm also a crystal healing practitioner. We're going to do a crystal mastery workshop. It's going to be beautiful. And my friend that I'm doing it with is something called a house coach. So we're going to be incorporating crystals with the home, and we're going to do this beautiful Atlantis meditation. Yeah, I'm super excited for that. If you're not in Toronto, which I'm assuming most people are not, I'm very excited because I've literally just announced like this past week, this new offering that I'm doing, which is an experience. It's all under this umbrella of something called Celestine Soul Maps. And the idea is that everybody starts off with an introductory session where they have to get a astrology natal chart and a human design body graph done. So then that's our foundation. And from there, it's like a choose your own adventure thing. They can pick and choose from those modalities for something in particular. They can do Akashic records, they can do oracle cards, tarot cards, all of these different modalities that I can do online. And it's literally going to be catered to them because I have their natal chart and their body graph. So I can literally cater to exactly how they want to have the information, what's going to work for them, how they receive information, and how they want to live their lives. So I'm extremely excited about that. So please do check that out. And obviously it's in the beginning stages, so there's lots of freebies with that, case studies, and like a better group will come out as well. So please have a look.
Thank you. And that all sounds exciting, and I will certainly be checking it out too. Really wonderful. And thank you. Thank you to everyone who's joining us today. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Michelle and Becca and our beautiful Catherine. Thank you. But before we go, very quickly, I forgot. Catherine, would you like to tell us about the Empowered Entrepreneurs Tribe? That we are honored to have you as a facilitator. And how do you bring holistic approaches to being an entrepreneur?
We did this today. This is the funny thing. What we do in Empowered Entrepreneurs is we get to share what we're up to in our businesses, what's happening, and just sharing some, like, whether sometimes I get it intuitively, but just sharing like with each other as well, practices to help us keep moving forward. But in terms of holistic practices, we shared this meditation today where it was thinking about a problem that's been plaguing us and actually letting the demons play out with it and going to the extreme negative and feeling it, because sometimes those voices in our head need that acknowledgement, and then flipping it and going to the other extreme, like, oh, what if we solve this? What's the miracle magical that could happen? And experiencing that, but then coming back to neutrality. And this is where holistic practice is so important in business and being an entrepreneur, because if you don't know how to come back to yourself, to that neutral place, to be in presence, it's really hard to make decisions to move forward. Because if you have an emotional charge around anything, whether it's good or bad, well, our perception of good or bad, but if you have an emotional charge around anything, you are actually tainting the outcome of what you're going to get. So you're attached to the outcome and you're going to actually be trying to control it. And if anything I've learned this past year is never condition the universe, because nothing will happen in your time or in your space. Having these holistic practices to come back to, but also you need a dream team. We're not meant to look after ourselves by ourselves. We're meant to have support around us and be able to connect with people, whether we need help with our gut, so we go see Charlotte. We need some Reiki, we go see Becca. We need some mental health work, we go see Michelle. It doesn't matter how it shows up, but knowing you have this dream team, these people supporting you, supports you, because your business is a reflection of you. So the more that you honor yourself and find that balance spiritually and emotionally through that holistic care, the more you can thrive in your business as well. And then we meet, I should say, when we meet at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, or Sydney time. Just put 9 a.m. Sydney time to convert it, on Mondays. And we were talking about this morning, I can't even convert that because daylight savings is about to happen and it's just blowing my mind. So I'm sure Sophia can do that. I'm saying no.
Yeah, 9 a.m. on a Monday, Sydney time, whatever time zone Sydney is in. So thank you for that. And for any entrepreneurs out there, thoroughly recommend coming and connecting with Catherine. And come and join us at the Empowered Entrepreneurs. Come and join us in Sacred You. Again, first of all, click on all the links below for all these amazing women. And while you're there, click on the link for Sacred You, which is just Sacred You, that's the letter U, love. Check everything out. We have panel discussions. We have amazing wisdom circles that are coming, that are now starting. We're just getting into archetype circles, and we also have our special interest tribes, including the Empowered Entrepreneurs, that you can join just for $1, $1. Get to come for 2 weeks just for $1, which is amazing. You actually get 2 weeks worth of business coaching from the incredible Catherine for $1. Amazing. And then after that, it's just $15 a month. So do come and join us. And again, I'd like to honor all these women for sharing, taking an hour plus out of their time to join us to share their wisdom and their experience in how to heal the spirit in a holistic way. Come and join us next time for whatever's coming up next time. There is so much, and we will see you next time. Thank you.